Guy's been training since he was 14 years of age, he's in his 20s, suddenly put on 15 pounds of muscle. If you made a natty or not on Tristyn Lee, what would you say? You already know what I would say, but what would you say over the course of the years that you've been learning about people building muscle after all? What would you say? Coach Greg will prescribe. Hello there, Coach Greg. I'm gregging my Doucette so hard right now. And so before even watching this video, everyone is commenting about Coach Greg. And so what is Tristyn Lee up to now? I'm gaining 40 pounds, the biggest change I've ever made. And so perhaps in this cycle, he's now going to add in some trend. I mean, let's be honest, he's a 5'5" manlet at best, adding on 40 pounds at the age of perhaps 23. This is next to impossible. You have to wonder, I mean, after all the videos I've ever made on Tristyn, remember I like this guy, if you read between the lines, is he not openly admitting to using steroids, and this time in high doses? Well, let us see.
I'm gaining 40 pounds, and this is why.
I mean, to me, he absolutely is. Oh, and if you want Coach Greg to go over Tristyn Lee's blood work, please write in the comments. During this 40-pound bulk where he adds mostly muscle, do you not want to see the blood work? If he is in fact natural, he should have no problem showing me the blood work. Did I not just clear up TNF's name? And so, Tristyn, are you ready to send me the blood work?
2 years ago, I gained 40 pounds and got fat.
Is Tristyn Lee as great of an actor as Wolverine? Like, with a straight face, hey, I gained 40 pounds last year and got fat. No, he got huge, and so, again, he's making a huge comeback. And so, this is what happens. You go on steroids, you gain a bunch of muscle, perhaps half fat, water, whatever, and then half muscle. And then when you go off said steroids, you lose a lot of those pounds, you do maintain some of the muscle, perhaps 10, and then you rinse and repeat the same thing year after year. Many bodybuilders, they do this. I don't think it takes a Coach Greg to tell you that Tristyn Lee has never been fat. In his off-season, in his fattest state ever, he still has a clearly defined six-pack, perhaps he's 12% body fat. If anything, he looks healthier in the offseason than he does now. Now, if they could only sprinkle on a little Tristyn Lee into Alicia McCarville, perhaps she as well could lose some weight.
But I also got stronger than ever, built the most muscle that I ever had, and made more progress than I had in years.
How many times has Coach Greg said to mean gain? And in saying that, have I not stated that you should be at a healthy body fat percentage? For most people, 10 to 15%. Now, Tristyn, he is a phenom, and I do believe that Tristyn Lee could maintain 8% body fat year-round and put on muscle from there. In comparison, bro is 4%. I tested him myself. He's gotten the DEXA scan, he's done hydrostatic weighing, he's had Coach Greg's layers eyes, he's had caliper tests, and bro is a legit 4%, and you can see it in his quads, in his hamstrings, the skin, it's paper thin.
In gaining that 40 pounds, I genuinely reignited my passion for what made me fall in love with bodybuilding in the first place. Progress.
Yeah, Gress mentioned progress. Everyone likes progress. That's why steroids and peptides and SARMs are so interesting, because they actually do work. If they didn't work, people wouldn't care. When you're going to the gym, as long as you're improving, it's fun. When you go on steroids, SARMs, peptides, it's more fun. It's funner. The problem is, when you stop taking those steroids, your body gets smaller, you get weaker, and it sucks, and then you go back on the cycle yet again. The hedonic treadmill, it keeps on rolling. You can't do anything about it.
But somewhere along the lines of dieting back down, I lost sight of all the joy that actually comes with making progress in the gym. But now, it's time for a change.
He lost all the joy of making progress in the gym. He realizes if I just sit around at 4 or 5% body fat year-round, nothing's going to change. I'll just be shredded Tristyn Lee, and I'll never make any improvements. I won't get stronger. I won't look better. I'll just always be where I am. I'll stagnate. Although it's a very impressive level to be at, it's more fun to make the gains. Why did you diet down to 4% body fat, and why did you maintain that for so long? I mean, yeah, I get it. You went on a bulk, probably took steroids, but whatever. Got up to 12% body fat, and then you cut down, mini cut. It's a huge cut. It was a huge cut. And so why didn't we just go in a surplus till we hit 8% body fat and then main gain from there. At 8%, or dare I say even 10, you could have slowly added in muscle for years to come. Sprinkle in some Turk Builder Max, or heavens forbid, if he had low levels of testosterone, he added in the Ferula Max, doubled his testosterone. And remember, there's a money back guarantee if you don't have a 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. And so this, the best new supplement that has hit the market in decades. I kid you not, code Greg, 15% off.
For a lot of the past year, I'd been comfortable with just kind of trickling along and making little bits of progress along the way by main gaining.
Because he's main gaining wrong. Has anyone ever said, including me, to main gain at 5% body fat, to get contest shredded as if he couldn't compete in a bodybuilding competition as lean as this right now, and then to main gain from there? No, I've never said that. No one has ever said that. You diet down to bodybuilder levels, and then in the off season, you go on a surplus. You put on body fat until you're healthy. For Tristyn, maybe it's 8%. For Sebum, maybe it's 10. For you, maybe it's 15. For someone else, maybe it's 20. But you find that number and you main gain from there. All this bulk and cut and mini bulk and mini cut, all of it is bullshit to sell you programs.
So I sat down with my coach and we developed an actual plan that would take me to the next level. I had so many questions for Jared about how this bulk would be structured, what my food would look like, but most of all, how much weight would I actually gain?
All you really care is give me the cycle. All this stuff about food and eating and tracking macros and calories and steps and using the Renaissance Periodation app, all of that, it is what it is. You can use the app. I'm not saying the app doesn't work. You could also use Coach Greg and Eric Janicki's Sculpt app. Tell you your body fat percentage, show you how to lift, the exercise selection, everything. But all you need to do when you're Tristyn Lee is eat in a surplus. So whatever you're doing right now, you eat more food than last time, and the scale weight, it's going to go up. If it doesn't go up, you eat more than that. Even if you're not tracking your calories, you just look at the scale, and if it's not up, you eat more. How much till you're full? This is not confusing.
Probably to a similar body weight, because you are now starting at 150, whereas I got you at like 135, the exact same conditioning that you're at right now at 150, which is insane.
And so you hear it. How many people think he did this while being natural? He was 135, and now he's 150 at the exact same body fat percentage. In 1 year, guy's been training since he was 14 years of age, he's in his 20s, suddenly put on 15 pounds of muscle. If you made a natty or not on Tristyn Lee, what would you say? You already know what I would say, but what would you say over the course of the years that you've been learning about people building muscle after all? What would you say? If you think that suddenly you put on 15 pounds of muscle out of nowhere because you suddenly change your diet, well, I got news for you. It doesn't work like that. Plus, Tristyn Lee had looked bigger than that in the past. Tristyn Lee wasn't always 135 pounds. Tristyn Lee prior to that was bigger. And was he in perhaps using masterone SARMs peptides? Well, probably. We don't have proof because how many times has he showed us his blood work? For a guy that wants us to believe that he's natural, how many times has he tried to back that shit up? You know, by posting blood work. In comparison, Hussein Farhad, everyone thinks he's a fake natty 4 times. At least he tries. He shows the blood work, and lo and behold, he passed the blood work. If Tristyn Lee showed us his blood work 4 times, don't you think I'd say he's natty? But yet he did not.
So the body weight will likely get up there. As we reach that 12, 13%, we'll slow down the rate of gain, ROG.
Why would we put Tristyn Lee up to 12 to 13% when he's about 4 to 5% right now? Do you really need to gain 8% body fat in order to put on muscle? And even if you did, let's say that was true, why would he have maintained 4 to 5% body fat for so long? He wasn't competing. Was he in photo shoots? Was he going down south for a wedding? Was he at a festival? Why did he need to be so peeled? Why are we bulking up to 12 to 13% and cutting down to 4 to 5? How does that make any sense? Now, if he said, you know, we're at 8% right now, we're going to bulk you up to 12 and then we're going to go back to 8. You know, summer's coming, festivals, you're getting married, 8% body fat. You know, you're going to pull off a Sam Sulek. Suddenly Tristyn Lee is married, but after that we bulk up to 12. I could see that. I would understand it. Hey, winter's coming. Summer is around the corner. It's time to get shredded for the summertime. Hey, that makes sense, but doing this, why even bother?
How fat do I really need to get?
Above 8% for most people. is a really good spot to then accumulate maybe up towards that 15-16% body fat.
I can live with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, for a bodybuilder, I certainly think 16% is too high because bodybuilders, they need to cut down to 4. But if you're a regular viewer at home and you don't compete and you want to bulk to 16% and cut to 8 back and forth, summer versus winter, there's nothing wrong with that. But notice he said the bottom end is 8. Below 8% body fat, the struggles of the body to have enough calories, to have enough building blocks to build muscle, well, they're going to be too high. And so Tristyn maintains 4 to 5%. How is he maintaining all that muscle at 4 to 5% body fat when everyone else needs to be at least 8? Is it possible he's using peptides? Is it possible he's using SARM steroids? Anything is possible except for Mike winning a pro card and having a proper tan.
Gaining 40 pounds from where I'm at right now would put me all the way up to 190 pounds, which is possible.
Does anyone think that Tristyn Lee is taller than Coach Greg? You know, I know that you think I'm a 5-foot-tall manlet, that I'm a hobbit, if you will, that I've starred in various movies, you know, when they need elves at Christmas time. Perhaps I was one of the main actors with Will Ferrell in that movie where they were drinking the syrups and so on. But the reality is this, the truth is this. Remember, don't argue feelings with facts. You might feel like I'm short, but the fact is I'm exactly a 5'6" manlet. A short king at best. Tristyn Lee is shorter than Coach Greg. I am, of course, 50 years old. I'm double Tristyn Lee's age. I'm over the hill. But I admittedly am on HRT and I have amazing genetics, as evidenced by having an IFBB Pro card as well as world records in the Guinness Book and the powerlifting, bench press, all these things. I weigh 188 pounds. How is Tristyn going to weigh more than Coach Greg while being 100% natural when I blasted steroids for 10 years and I'm on HRT right now? Not only that, I'm literally an owner of a peptide clinic. I can get my hands on whatever I want. And so if Togi had the betting odds to bet on Tristyn Lee going up natural to 190 pounds, it would be 100 to 1. And he would take that bet. I'm putting $1 million in order to win 100 because they ain't gonna happen.
One thing I was very interested in is how much muscle could I realistically gain being so deep into my training career?
I would say realistically, 4 to 5 pounds of muscle in a year would be very realistic. If he's never used Turk Builder Max or Ferula, I think he could go even higher, perhaps 8 pounds of muscle. I think he could perhaps double the gains he could get by using Coach Greg's HCLT supplements, which are in fact natty. Remember, they're not banned by WADA. Now, with steroids, test, trend, and so on, it's double digits at least, probably potentially 15 pounds of muscle. I mean, it depends on what he was using in his previous cycle. We know he was 135 and now he's 150, so he's put on about 15 pounds of muscle in a year. They're going to say it was 10. I don't know how they do that kind of math. You're the same condition as last year. You're 135, now you're 150. To me, 150 minus 135 is 15, but hey, it's been many years since Coach Greg taught math. It's been over 10. Maybe I forgot.
You're now actually implementing best sports science practices as applied to hypertrophy training. Mm-hmm. You gain like a fucking noob. You gain 10 pounds of lean tissue, which is insane.
And so he's saying he gained 10 pounds of lean tissue, but yet he put on 40 pounds. And so we're supposed to expect that Tristyn Lee put on 40 pounds and only 10 of that was muscle? Like, does it really seem worth it? You all want to gain 40 pounds and only 10 of that is muscle. 30 pounds of that then is what? Fat and water? It doesn't seem like the ideal trade-off. My personal opinion is you should be able to put on 20 pounds and put on 10. Why put on more than double the muscle you're putting on? And so for a general rule of thumb, if you want to put on 5 pounds of muscle, then you probably need to gain about 10. If you want to put on 10 pounds of muscle this year, you probably need to gain about 20. Nowheres does it say you need to gain 40 pounds in order to put on 10. That makes no sense. And so I'm 188 pounds. If I want to put on 10 pounds this year, go up to 198, I probably have to go up to 208 pounds. But I certainly don't need to go up to 228 pounds. That would make Coach Greg literally fat.
So you think about that year 1 versus year 2, what do you expect a new trainee to gain year 2. You know, maybe like 80% of that,
Sure.
50% of that.
The scaling down of newbie gains, it does not go that in the first year and the second year you gain 80% as much as the first. It scales down very, very quickly. And so typically you're going to get perhaps 50% of the gains in the first year. And so if you have amazing genetics, some people can do this, they'll put on 20 pounds of muscle their first year. Now, you know, they look at the weights and they put on muscle. Professional bodybuilders, guys who have insane genetics, the Hussein Farhats of the world. And so in that first year, sometimes they put on 20. The next year, it's more typical going to be 10. Not often do people put on 20 pounds in the first year and then 16 pounds in the next year and then continue on from that.
But I think you're still in a damn good position to where we do mash you up a good 30, 35 pounds and you maintain a good 8 to 12 pounds of lean tissue, depending.
This is not going to happen. And remember, those average gains that people are making, they're not 5'5" manlets. The bigger you are, the taller you are, the more muscle you can put on. When you put on 10 pounds as a 5'5" manlet after training for 8 years, that is a night and day transformation. That is steroid type gains. That is more gains than most people would expect from Turk Builder Max as well as Ferula. To put on 10 plus pounds, it's almost literally saying that's with performance enhancing drugs. And so with steroids, if he said, I plan on putting you on test and trend, maybe dabble in some Anavar, Winstrol, whatever, and in the end of the year, you're going to be 10 pounds of muscle bigger, I would say, yeah, I think he can do that. You know, he's only 5'5". It's going to be a lot easier than, for example, if he was 6 feet tall. Remember, if you start off at 6 feet tall and 200 pounds versus 5'5" at 150 pounds, the 200-pound person, to add 5% of their body weight, that's 10 pounds of muscle. But at 150 pounds, 5% of your body weight, it's 7.5. And so clearly, these are astronomical gains and huge expectations for someone like Tristyn Lee. And without steroids, nearly or next to impossible.
I was honestly shocked to hear that, but it does make this next gaining phase that much more exciting. After training for so long, I would have expected possibly 1 to 2 pounds of muscle growth year over year.
And so I'm here to say it's somewhere in the middle. Aren't you glad that there's a Coach Greg to actually give you the facts, to speak the truth, to not lie? Tristyn Lee, 1 to 2 pounds. I mean, wouldn't that be depressing? The coach, 8 to 12 pounds. But what do you expect from a coach? Coaches want to have you thinking positive. They want to give you the best case scenario. They want you to continue to hire them.
I started the last offseason, I looked back, it was 150 grams of carbs, and now we're going into this next growing phase starting at 325 grams of carbs.
And so to start off with, he's going to add in 150 extra grams of carbs. It's about 600 calories. Now, if 600 extra calories is going to put on a ton of muscle, I'm going to ask you this specific question, and I want you to see if you think like Coach Greg. I'm hoping that you do. If adding 600 calories from carbs right now is going to dramatically improve his ability to build muscle, close to 1 pound of muscle a month, why didn't he add some of that last month? The month before, did he not already hire Jared Feather and perhaps Mr. Mike a year ago? And so imagine this, 6 months ago, Tristyn Lee would have added in 75 grams of extra carbs, is 300 extra calories. And he would have done that until July for 6 months. If he's planning to put on 10 pounds of muscle in the next year, could he have not have done that up till now and put on 4? And so rather than being 150 pounds right now, he would already be at 154. But no, why would I do that? Because that is what Coach Greg says to do. Remember when I say to main gain, when you're at 4 or 5% body fat, it's very difficult to put on muscle. But if he went up to 8 to 10 to 12% body fat and kept his body fat the same, it'd be much easier to put on muscle. And so they're adding in 600 calories because 300, it frankly isn't enough. They need his body fat to come up to the point where he's actually healthy. 4 to 5%, it isn't healthy. 8 to 12 for Tristyn, it most likely is. For you, it could be 10, 15, 20, whatever. And so by adding in a significant jump in calories, 600, it is going to make a difference. He doesn't need more protein, doesn't need more fat, he just needs more calories because he isn't eating enough. Now, once his body fat goes up, he's going to have more glycogen retention, he's going to be heavier, he's going to be stronger, and he's going to have more ability to push himself harder than last time. Why are we waiting so long to add those 600 calories? And so if you ever get to the point where you need to add in 600 calories, the cut was too far. And so you're essentially making up for a mistake. Now, there's one time when that would have to happen. When you're competing. Anyone who's competed, they drop down to perhaps 5-6% body fat, and so they're too lean and they have to up their calories quite a bit, perhaps even 1,000 calorie surplus. But if you're not a competitor, why are we upping and dropping calories so much when you can clearly just gain at a healthy body fat for you? You can look good year round. Now, if you want to look extra good, get down to 10%, perhaps you were 12 to 15 in the winter. You drop the calories perhaps by 500 per day. You lose about 1 pound of fat each and every week. And that is enough. You then can slowly add those calories back and gain muscle yet again.
How do you believe I healed my metabolism after years of chronic dieting, undereating, overtraining, and a lifestyle that was not conducive to muscle growth?
So you don't technically heal a broken metabolism. You simply speed up your metabolism by doing what speeds up your metabolism. Moving, walking, lifting weights, and increasing your BMR. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. And so by getting more jacked, lifting the weights, you're boosting your metabolism. Now, if your hormones are not in order, as in you're on a starvation diet, you're not eating enough, and your thyroid isn't working, you're not eating enough nutrients, then of course, your metabolism is going to get faster once you eat back at a healthy amount for you. All you really need to do is become healthy. Remember, for men, I preach 15% body fat as being healthy, and for women, 25%. Now, if you care more about aesthetics, females, 18 to 22%, more for athletes, and for men, 10 to 12%. This is more so for your athletes. The special few, the guys with crazy genetics, as Jared was talking about 8%. And for females, some could go down to 15%. And what you won't want to see for females is to cut too low, for example, single-digit body fat, because they can develop amenorrhea. Female athlete triad, they're going to have poor bone development, osteoporosis, they're losing their period, you can't have kids, perhaps even in the future. And for men, you don't want to drop down to 6% and or less. Your testosterone levels are going to plummet. Now, of course, you can raise these testosterone levels by using Ferula. There's the money back guarantee, $50 gift card. Use Turk Builder Max and so on. But of course, you want to eat enough calories to get your body fat to a healthy zone.
And I do think that if you're too lean, depending on the individual, like I talked about, you do run into some difficulties of gaining muscle or at least performing very well in the gym, so you can track your PRs and feel like you're notably improving.
And so Tristyn Lee has never had any problem with the getting too fat part. He talks about, oh my God, look at me, he makes fun of himself, saying he's like a pig. I mean, to me, that just shows he has body dysmorphia. It kind of proves it. Like, imagine if Coach Greg said Tristyn Lee is fat. Anyone who looks as fat as Tristyn Lee, you need to go on a diet. Imagine if I said that. I mean, you all got mad when I said, hey, if you can't see the outline of your abs, you're fat. And I'm talking about bodybuilders. Imagine you're a bodybuilder. You're competing at the Olympia. You're C-Bum. C-Bum's off season, and he's going like this in great lighting, and you can't see any of his abs. I say, C-Bum, you're fat. You don't think that that's accurate? And so for Tristyn Lee to say that he is fat, it sounds kind of ridiculous. 18% body fat. Once you get beyond that, essentially you're doing a dreamer bulk. And how did that end up working out for Mr. Mike? Ended up with surgery, sucking out the fat cells, cutting out perhaps 4 inches of loose skin. It's not something that you want. And so do not go on the dreamer bulk. Personal opinion, don't bulk past 15%. And as far as cutting goes, Tristyn Lee, as he's explaining to him, he was too lean. You can't build as much muscle as you want to. When you're hovering around 5% body fat, you need to be at least 8.
I got up to 170 pounds, in that range of 170 to 178 at my peak. I didn't notice much growth or much benefit beyond that point.
Exactly. Why bulk past 170 to 178 if it doesn't really benefit you any? All you're doing at that point is gaining fat. And so why is Tristyn talking about now going up to 190? Unless he knows something that you and I don't. For example, he's going to use Tren. If he's going to use Tren, 170, it's not going to be enough because he's going to be able to put on so much muscle. Nutrient partitioning is going to be through the roof. All those extra androgens, the performance-enhancing drugs, it's so much easier to build muscle. You can use those extra calories. But if he's training natural and he's a normal human being and he's currently 150, no reason to go past 170. And with his level of training, it is diabolical for him to assume he could put on 8 to 12 pounds of muscle.
I wasn't getting stronger in the gym. My sleep wasn't getting better. And if anything, my recovery was getting worse. So at that point, I probably should have gone back to more of a maintenance and just maintain that weight for a sustained period of time.
Yeah. Should have maintained gain. Exactly what Coach Greg has been saying all along. I mean, growing up is realizing that Coach Greg was right all along. I like how Tristyn Lee is standing there, not flexing, not tensing, when every photo we've ever seen of Tristyn is when he's flexing his quads under the right lighting with a pump, and he's just standing there, and even just standing there, he doesn't look fat. He's just standing there, hanging out, stomach sticking out, kind of like this, and you can see his abs. Now, I have close to 8% body fat, and this is what I look like when I'm sticking out. Do I look fat? In comparison, if I'm flexing, if I'm tensing, you can clearly see more muscles. And so Tristyn is trying to look good by not flexing, as well as he's not flexing his legs. He's standing like this. Oh, look at how fat I am. I've lost it. Versus standing like this and flexing the wheels. And so this is what he's doing. He's trying to make it look like he got fat when he clearly did not.
I definitely did need to get myself out of that low body fat state, getting up to 170 pounds just to make sure I was in a range that was more conducive to actually gaining muscle tissue.
There's somewheres in the middle. Like, he went up to 178 pounds. He's saying past 170, there's no benefits whatsoever. He started at 135. You know, he could have gotten to 160. You don't have to go to these extremes. Somewhere in the middle is almost always best. It's the same with bodybuilding, your lifestyle. People are so adamant on you can't go out on the weekends, you can't have fun, you can't go to a club, you can't stay up past midnight. You can. It's about balance. Tristyn Lee has no balance. He's worse than Jeff Cavalier, who had carrot cake once a year on his birthday. Looking back, you're thinking, you know what? I could have had carrot cake 3 times a year. I would have been all right.
But you have to make sure that your starting point is actually sustainable. If your starting point is just too lean, there is a point where you are not going to be building muscle. And I was beyond that point.
Tristyn Lee admittedly says main gaining works. The problem is I was trying to main gain too lean. You can't maintain at 4 to 5% body fat and think you're going to maximally put on muscle. But you can if you're at a healthy weight, which for most people is 10 to 15%. For Tristyn, I think he could maintain at 8. He's got the genetics. Let's see how it works out.
If there's anything you guys want me to talk about, discuss, or document throughout this process, just let me know in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next one.
I want you to talk about the steroid cycles that you're going to be on, whether it's steroids, SARMs, or peptides. What ones you like the best, what ones you like the least, as well as your blood work. How did they affect your blood work? And if there's any part where you're not using performance-enhancing drugs, I want you to talk about your testosterone levels. How far were they down, and how far did they go up? Because clearly at 4 to 5% body fat, there's no way you have healthy testosterone levels unless you're on HRT. We've seen it on TNF and others when they diet down and you're clearly leaner than these guys, that their testosterone levels, they plummet. And so we want to see your testosterone levels as well as everything else related to your blood work, of which you can, of course, get done for free. I'll hook you up at AlgoRx. The rest of the world, hey, you can get your blood work done at AlgoRx. They also can prescribe you various medications, for example, GLP, Cialis, telmisartan, stuff for your hair. The list goes on and on. Don't forget to use code Greg. And remember, it's all above board. It's from compounding pharmacies. 0% chance that you're getting ripped off. It's not from some research chemical bullshit site. This is a site that you can trust, the same as HTLT supplements, where you can pick up the Ferula as well as the Turk Builder Max. Let's get restarted. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algo for AlgoRx. Don't forget to watch one of the tube loops. And of course, to get sponsored, or if you want to be an ambassador, click the link. If you want to be coached and or carry this stuff in your stores and or gym, the link is there for you as well. And until next time, off to the next one.